If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is something that could better be changed in ourselves. This quote is from Carl Jung in The Development of Personality, Collected Work, Volume 17. Welcome back to Light and Shadow, the space where we explore the hidden corners of our mind and the limitless depth of our soul. I'm your host, JF, and today I present you with the dopamine spark, or what I call rethinking ADHD and positive reinforcement. The sacred spark, rewiring the ADHD brain with dopamine and grace. Introduction, the myth of the bad kid. Today, we're stepping into a space where cutting-edge neuroscience meets deep spiritual wisdom. We are talking about our children, specifically children navigating the beautiful, chaotic, and often misunderstood world of ADHD. If you are a parent or educator, you know the exhaustion, the interrupting, the loud voices, the sudden disruptive antics that seems to happen right when you need absolute quiet. In those moments of frustration, it is so easy to think they are just doing this for attention. They are deliberately pushing my buttons. But today we are dismantling that myth entirely. We are looking at the biological truth. Attention-seeking behavior in ADHD is not a conscious choice. It is not deliberate manipulation. Instead, it is an involuntary biological responses to neurological under-arousal. Your child is not trying to push your buttons. They are desperately trying to wake up their own brain. From a spiritual perspective, this shift in how we view our children changes everything. It moves us away from judgment and brings us closer to compassion. As a Swiss psychiatrist and pioneer of analytical psychology, Carl Jung beautifully noted in his collected works, when we change how we perceive their struggle, we unlock the power to heal their environment through positive reinforcement. Part 1, the dopamine deficit, or what I call a biological and spiritual starvation. To truly extend grace to a child with ADHD, we have to look under the hood at the neuroscience. It all comes down to a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation, focus, and the brain's internal reward system. In a neurotypical brain, dopamine flows like a steady, calm river. But in the ADHD brain, it runs low. It operates in a constant state of chemical starvation. Because of this baseline under-arousal, ordinary, quiet moments don't feel peaceful to a child with ADHD. They feel physically uncomfortable, intensely boring, and even painful. Let me offer you my perspective and experience in this. When I was 5 years old in kindergarten, we had quiet time where we would lay down on mats and take a nap for 10 to 15 minutes. At about the halfway point, I started screaming. My teacher was obviously concerned and asked me, "Why are you screaming?" And my response was, "It's too quiet." And that's a true story. So this dopamine deficit drives 4 very specific behaviors. Number 1 is stimulation seeking. When the environment gets quiet, the ADHD brain panics. It craves a spark, actions that draw an immediate, intense reaction, like speaking loudly, interrupting, or acting out, which provide a spark and a quick rush of brain stimulation. Even a negative reaction, like a parent yelling, provides that vital chemical hit. Second, impulse control limits. Executive dysfunction means the frontal lobe of the brain struggles to filter inputs. A child with ADHD lacks an internal pause button. The impulse happens and the action follows instantly. Number 3, emotional validation. Children with ADHD navigate a world that's constantly correcting them. They carry a heavy burden of chronic rejection and misunderstanding. And this is something that I've experienced myself in my childhood, and it carried itself in my adulthood. And some people have used that against me. So sometimes demanding the spotlight is just a desperate bid for emotional reassurance. They want to know they are seen. When we see this, we realize that their behavior is a call for help, not a declaration of war. It reminds me of a powerful insight from the contemporary spiritual teacher and author Eckhart Tolle, who wrote in A New Earth, when you recognize that another person's behavior is a reaction to pain or conditioning, you no longer react to it as if it were a personal attack. Your child's brain is in pain, searching for the light of stimulation. So how do we tell the difference between standard, deliberate misbehavior and ADHD-driven impulse? We look at two factors, intent and control. First, consider intent. Deliberate misbehavior has a clear, calculated goal and stops when the person decides to change tactics. ADHD-driven actions, however, happen automatically under low stimulation. The child isn't planning a disruption. Their nervous system is executing an emergency survival tactic to spark brain activity. Second, look at control. People with ADHD often realize they overdid it after the action occurs. They feel the sting of regret almost immediately, but they completely lack the power to stop the impulse in the moment. If we approach this with rigid, punitive judgment, we break their spirit. I don't know how many times that's happened to me. And again, that carried in adulthood, and that's actually caused RSD. See my previous podcasts. But if we approach it with a spiritual awareness, we see their inherent value beneath the chaos. The famous American psychologist and philosopher William James, who deeply explored the intersection of the human mind and spiritual experience, once remarked, "The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated." Children with ADHD often crave this appreciation deeply because it is so rarely received. This brings us to our primary tool, positive reinforcement. The ADHD brain struggles with delayed rewards. Telling a child, if you behave all week, we'll go to the park on Saturday, is ineffective. Saturday feels like a lifetime away to a brain operating in the now or not now. Positive reinforcement works because it directly targets the dopamine deficit. When you praise or reward a good behavior instantly, you give that overactive reward center the exact chemical boost it is starving for. You provide immediate feedback, which helps the child successfully connect their positive action to a positive outcome. The science ties beautifully into spiritual law. Positive reinforcement does two extraordinary things. Number one, it boosts dopamine. It directly aids the brain underactive reward center, which naturally improve focus and behavioral control. Second, it counters chronic negativity. By the age of 10, a child with ADHD receives tens of thousands more negative comments, correction, and criticism than a neurotypical child. This constant feedback loop of stop that, be quiet, and why can you sit still degrades their sense of self-worth. Again, I direct you to my last podcast on RSD. When we use positive reinforcement, we are performing an act of spiritual restoration. We are offering what psychiatrists like Carl Rogers call unconditional positive regard, seeing the divine essence of the child separate from their neurological struggles. We offset the world's criticism by pouring light into their life. Conclusion and practical takeaways. I challenge you to put this into practice immediately. Shift your focus. Stop waiting for a massive achievement. Instead, catch your child being good in the smallest, quietest moments, like, did they sit quietly for 2 minutes? Praise it immediately. Did they keep their hands to themselves while passing their sibling? Acknowledge it right then. Keep your praises specific, enthusiastic, and immediate. You will be actively feeding their brains the dopamine it needs, reducing the need for them to seek it through disruptive behaviors. By doing this, You are not just managing a diagnosis. You are actively feeding their brain the dopamine it needs, protecting their spirit, and honoring the sacred bond between you. Remember this: changing your lens changes their entire world. This podcast is for informational purpose only. I do not give medical advice or diagnosis. If you need to do so, please consult a professional. Thank you for walking this path with me today in light and shadow. If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who might need help. Remember, you deserve peace, you deserve safety, and you are deeply loved. Until next time, take care of your heart and soul. And as always, I wish you love, light, and shadows. Until next week.